It's Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network probably brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And yes, certainly I am New Jersey's premier and now 10-time award-winning journalist. Top Latino as voted on by the Latino Spirit online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative. And without a doubt, folks, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, because my level of honesty, ladies and gentlemen, now more than ever, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, folks. It's me, the people's voice and the people's choice, the generational talent in New Jersey media. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday. I want to thank you all for joining us here on this, the 18th of November. Folks, we're just wrapping up 2024. A lot to talk about, obviously, and I'm sure a lot of us are still very exhausted after Election Day earlier in the month. I know I'm very happy. As you can see, I'm still rocking that red. And I'm still rocking on my social media, of course. If you haven't checked it out, why not do that? And folks, again, make sure you do that by liking Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on Facebook, of course, as also liking Jersey First TV. Don't forget to follow us on both Instagram and Twitter. And of course, for all you YouTube subscribers, we're always on YouTube for something, whether we listen to podcasts like this one, or I don't know, educational podcasts, how-to videos, whatever the case may be, folks. We're always on YouTube for something. It takes 2 seconds. Click the subscribe button. Don't forget to like, comment, and share not just tonight's episode, but all of our episodes here on the Jersey First Television Network. And of course, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and take it with you on your PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet, wherever it is you're going, whether you're out doing errands, whether you're traveling down the Turnpike or the Parkway, folks, to get to the League of Municipalities, which starts tomorrow in Atlantic City. One of my favorite times of the year, of course. I get to see many of you, many of my fans out there. So don't forget to say hi. And for all the haters, don't forget to come up and say hello as well. Folks, take Jersey First TV with you. Wherever it is you're on the road, Jersey First will make it much more enjoyable. I guarantee that. And of course, folks, I can't say enough how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It is the Jersey First Television Network. Brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, hosted by the outstanding Elizabeth Nader. And brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malillo and Stephen Rambolo also premiere on Thursdays. And of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe air every Monday night live. Of course, check your local listings on social media. Folks, again, it's the best analysis and commentary about everything going on in New Jersey politics and more. It's always Real Talk right here on Jersey First TV. Folks, you want to stick around for final thoughts? Yes, last week was quite extensive. I had a lot of people to roast on final thoughts, but this week we're going to keep it a little more singular, and one person in particular who just continues to get not just on my nerves, but everybody's nerves in New Jersey media. That's, of course, good old Uncle Dave. David Cruz, the workaholic. I'm kidding. A little bit of more of his usual asinine commentary over the weekend, which I want to dissect during final thoughts. So, folks, you definitely want to stick around for that. Trust me, it's not to be missed. But of course, folks, there's always things to talk about here on the program. Again, like, comment, and share. It takes 2 seconds to do that on all of your social media platforms. Of course, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. By the way, you can check out my new TikTok, folks, Fernando Uribe Media. Getting some good traffic and good views, folks. Again, helping to promote Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And of course, Jersey First TV. Folks, yes, the election is come and gone. And of course, a big component about this election cycle, we'll talk about the economy, but even here in New Jersey, it's important to talk about the business climate in New Jersey, which I'm always bitching and moaning about, because I don't know, I'm always like in this very apocalyptic doomsday scenario when it comes to the business climate here. But hopefully, I got a great guest tonight that'll try to talk me down and sort of give me some more optimism about the business climate here in New Jersey. And why not welcome back the president and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. And I know she's a big fan of this program and of the brand. She's my good friend, Michele Siekerka, joins us live here on Real Talk. Michele, how are you?
I'm doing great this evening, Fernando. Thanks so much.
It's great to have you here, folks. And again, check out the New Jersey Business and Industry Association by going to their website, njbia.org. Once again, njbia.org. Don't forget to follow them on Twitter, of course, X. I'm sure you'll also like them on Facebook and also follow them on Instagram. Michele, good to see you. Been kind of kind of a quiet November, right?
Oh, sure. Really quiet.
No, without a doubt. And again, folks, one of the things that I talk about in this show a lot, Michelle, is, I'm always the pessimist about progressive policies. And of course, one party in Trenton that's had sort of an absolute monopoly on the legislature for over 20 years. I keep saying all the time that whether it's the gas tax, it keeps going up, property taxes, it becoming more difficult for entrepreneurs to open a business in New Jersey. Everyone seems to tell me, hey, Fernando, there's a very apocalyptic tone to your outlook about the business climate in New Jersey. Am I overreacting sometimes?
Well, I would say, it tends to be a challenging business climate here in the state of New Jersey. Definitely running a business in New Jersey is not for the faint of heart.
No, without a doubt. And what do you, again, earlier during the summer, I had the president and CEO of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And if you're familiar with Carlos Medina,
Absolutely.
great job that Carlos and Luis de la Hoz do, again, as he's the executive director there. I mean, great job in just motivating business owners, especially in a demographic like the Latino community, Michelle, right? Where, I mean, the census data tells us conclusively that literally in the next 10 years, Hispanics like myself, we're going to be the majority, not just in New Jersey, but around the country. And I think that's also maybe becoming very, very evident in our business community. What are you seeing from, I'm sure, data and numbers that come across your desk when it comes to entrepreneurs from all backgrounds?
Well, this is a very diverse state, if not, the most diverse state in the nation. And our business community is a really good heat map of that population. So we see that. We see in our business very diverse types of company, but diversity of every single type, be it culture, background, size, geography. The business community here in the state of New Jersey is predominantly driven by small to mid-sized business, a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. In fact, we saw a lot of entrepreneurship post-COVID, more so than larger companies growing. We saw, entrepreneurs going out on their own. Obviously, gig work is a big thing now too. Everybody wants to own their own piece of their personal pie, if you will. So it's a very different landscape here in New Jersey. We're very proud of the relationships we have with all of our chambers across the state of New Jersey. And we lead the New Jersey Business Coalition, which is a coalition of over 100 trade associations and nonprofit leaders from all across the state. We put that together 1 week into COVID so that we could work together on one singular important message for New Jersey business. And we continue to collaborate today to bring forward, positive policies for New Jersey business.
Folks, if you're just joining us right now live, my guest this evening is the distinguished president and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Again, you can check them out at njbia.org. It's Michele Siekerka. Joins us live here on Real Talk. Folks, like, comment, and share. It takes 2 seconds to show your support for the NJBIA and, of course, for Real Talk via the Jersey First Television Network. Michelle, again, I don't like to get overly political on a show like this when I'm talking to people that head up organizations like yours. But, again, I can't help it where, one party's controlled the legislature for over 20 years. And it just seems that a lot of progressive policies, whether it's overtaxation, overregulation, I would say it's really harmed New Jerseyans, right? I mean, we have the highest property taxes in the country. It continues to increase again. The gas tax just went up this year. Certainly spending's out of control in Trenton. It kind of just makes you wonder, again, for conservatives like myself that are sort of beating the drums about, hey, we need to get back to fiscal responsibility. I just think that I'm just screaming to the heavens for nothing because I don't see that changing in Trenton anytime soon. But you're much more entrenched. You talk to certainly the governors over the years, legislators. What's been your experience? Because I'm sure that there has to be moments that you're frustrated with not just the way we spend, our taxation policies in New Jersey, and obviously how that adversely affects the business communities.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, no doubt about it. Look, when we wake up each and every day, we advocate tirelessly for an affordable and regionally competitive business climate here in the state of New Jersey. For the past 7 years, we've been on defense. Now, defense means we show up every day and we're having to mitigate bad policy. And that's what we've done. But at the same time, we always look to promote a pro-business agenda at the same time, right? Growth, workforce development, innovation. I mean, there's some bright spots in all the gloom for sure. But again, it's not for the faint of heart. It's been a very, very difficult and challenging few years, here in the state of New Jersey. Mandates, each and every day we're hit with some type of a new employment mandate on how we do and run business. Oftentimes we think, hey, if government would just maybe step to the side once in a while and let business, be creative the way they are. I say every day, Fernando, when I stand up and put my boots on the ground, I'm extremely proud to represent New Jersey's business community and what they stand for. Great business leaders who make great businesses, who make great communities. That's the business community of New Jersey, not corporate greed and corporate welfare, right? Like, let's get back to recognize, it's the business leaders who are the ones at the end of the day when they come home and, take off their proverbial suit. Well, nobody wears suits anymore, right? Right. But, they're the ones who are out there in their community giving back each and every day. And it's these great businesses that are at the heart and core of our main streets and lifting up our communities and ensuring that our nonprofits support and are able to be supported, because government can't do that, right? If the nonprofits went away tomorrow, government can never step in and make up for how the business community supports those nonprofits. So the message we try to deliver each and every day is the good work that New Jersey business does. We are the job creators. When I stand up each and every day and put my boots on the ground, I'm standing for the job creators who create opportunity for each and every person who has a job to put a roof over their head and put food on their table and to live, work, and raise a family in the state of New Jersey. And I'm proud of that.
And you should, absolutely. I mean, you've done a great job in your capacity as president and CEO of the NJBIA. Again, surveying a lot of very treacherous, very difficult terrains. To your point, again, it's 4 years later. It feels like yesterday, right? I mean, I'm doing this show right now from my house, which I started back during COVID. And, 4 years ago at this time, we were still home. A lot of us were still home. In my opinion, again, we have very draconian measures and mandates that were in place by the governor. Obviously, I hate to politicize the virus, but we all know how other governors governed during the pandemic. I think, listen, history will tell us eventually. I'm not sure if a movie will ever be written or a book or a docuseries, but I think we're going to look back and seeing that, a legacy of the current governor is, I think, how poorly he managed COVID and obviously how that affected the business community. I mean, case in point, I know so many business owners in nightlife and hospitality collectively that had to shut down restaurants, like long-standing restaurants that couldn't survive because of the mandates, and whether even it was here or even across the river. I mean, case in point, I'll give you an example. So obviously every December, I like taking my parents and family to Rockefeller Center to go see the tree. We go take a selfie, in the cold and whatever, right? And Christmas is one of my favorite times of the year. But I remember that this was right during, December 2021. And I remember after we left Rockefeller Center, we're walking to go get something to eat, good Cuban restaurant in Times Square. I'm not vaccinated. I chose not to be vaccinated. That's my choice. But, across the river, they were requiring a vaccine card. So my parents were like, damn, we can't go to this Cuban restaurant. I'm like, yep, sorry, I'm not vaccinated. So we had to kind of come back across New Jersey and, again, try to find a restaurant where it was possible that someone like me who's unvaccinated could have dinner. And I think those are the times we were living in. And 4 years later, it was my mind is still blown that we lived under these mandates, Michele.
Yeah, well, look, it was an unprecedented time and extremely challenging time. This is why we set up that New Jersey Business Coalition, because what we did is we mobilized the business community literally 1 week in, Fernando, so that we could be at the ready to do everything we could to help our businesses stand strong through what was a very, very challenging time. So we actually went right to work putting together, what would the reopening plans look like? How can we let businesses decide for themselves how each and every workplace should function based upon the terms and conditions of that workplace. No two workplaces are the same. No two workforces are the same, right? Parts of the state were affected differently by this. And, it is true. New Jersey was we were the first closed. We were the longest closed. And that took a toll on New Jersey business. Let me tell you, we were 24/7 at NJBIA helping our businesses to understand the rules, what they could and couldn't do, to help them maneuver their way to getting open, to help them to pivot to online ways of doing business, and help them to think about and appreciate new business models. And then we went after funding to say, government, if you're going to put these mandates on business, you need to give them money so that they can be helped along the way to get technology up so they can have, platforms where they can deliver their products or services in a more virtual type of manner. So there were some good programs that came out of that. Those programs were oversubscribed on day one. There was never enough money for New Jersey business. unemployment insurance trust fund, went absolutely bust. And then we came back and we asked businesses to repay that as opposed to use some of our federal COVID money toward that, which about 37 other states did, and we didn't. That was another tax on business that we didn't need, another increase from the unemployment insurance trust fund. So there were a lot of challenging things that took on those 4 years. And then, here we are today. We thought December 31st, we sunset a corporate business tax that ran more years than it originally should have because of COVID and the need for some, extra cushioning in the budget, which we understood, right? So it was supposed to sunset on December 31st. And technically it did. But however, 6 weeks later, Governor Murphy introduced the corporate transit fee, which was the exact same tax on a smaller pool of companies, but the largest, most successful companies who employ the most employees across the state of New Jersey, to make them outliers on corporate business tax at 11.5% and make it retroactive to January 1. So there was never a sunset. And here you had these large companies, Wall Street type of companies, publicly traded companies that had to go back and restate 2/4 of their financials. Wall Street doesn't like that, right? So that has an effect, that has an impact. That's real. Those companies, their hands are frozen on their wallets now. Are they going to make more investment in New Jersey? They may not pick up their toys and go home, tomorrow and lift everything out of this state, but are they going to grow here? My God, my manufacturers tell me every day they get calls every single week from other states, Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida. What can we do to attract you to come here? And sadly, some of those companies are growing in those places, if not totally picking up and relocating. And that's what those types of policies, that's the impact they have.
Based on that point, and I'm glad you brought that up, I'm assuming at some point in your capacity, Michele, you've had sit downs with the governor, right? Whether it's this one or Governor Christie, right? I mean, what have those conversations been like when you're seeing data like this and you're presenting it to the governor and saying, listen, this is why, you can paint this picture that, people are moving to New Jersey and New Jersey is still an attractive place to live in. I don't disagree. But from a business perspective, hey, it's going to be a hell of a lot better to move to Tennessee. I mean, case in point, there's a reason why Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro moved their podcast out of California and said, you know what, I can't afford to stay here. We're being overly taxed, overly regulated. And, we're going to move to Texas. Ben Shapiro moved to Tennessee. Joe Rogan moved to Texas, and Shapiro moved to Tennessee. We're seeing businesses moving, to your point, to the Carolinas, to Georgia, to Florida. And, when you present these facts and numbers, let's say to the current governor, what's been the reaction like when you've had sit downs with him?
So the thing I'm very proud of at NJBIA, when we advocate and when we lobby on behalf of the business community, we always bring research and data, and it's studied. We don't make it up, right? Everything has a citation and you can find it. And so we're highly respected for what we do and how we do it, because we don't make stuff up. We don't pontificate. We don't shoot from the hip. So we bring in data and we bring in research. And many times that data and that research can't be argued with. The issue is the policymaker on the other side doesn't necessarily want to get to the same policy end that we do. And so they have a way of saying, I understand you, but we can't get there. We have to do it this way, right? And so now here's where where you start with kind of the give and take, to the extent there can be give and take. And let me say again, the last 7 years we've been on defense because we elected 7 years ago a progressive governor, and Governor Murphy. He ran on a progressive agenda and he won. And so he felt he had a mandate to carry out that agenda, which put us on defense. Right. So what we do is we sit and we try to mitigate as best we can. And we have done that successfully. I mean, I'll give you an easy example, right? Be it minimum wage, which everybody wants a good living wage, right? Okay, we get that. Minimum wage, the governor wanted a clean 15. He wanted to go right to 15. We said, Governor, no shocks to the system. Slow and steady wins the race. Business needs predictability and reliability, right? So what did he do? $1 a year over 5 years. Business could plan. They could plan out and they could see that on the horizon. Now, of course, COVID threw that all out the window again too, right? Okay. But the concept, the concept's the same. Same with paid family leave, right? We have the broadest paid family leave in the entire country, and we want to do more. Okay. Well, that's fine. We want to take care of our workforce, but let's also recognize that, again, these companies of a certain size, particularly small business, right? They need the opportunity to be able to work directly with their workforce on how they can make things work. And when you shove these mandates in, oftentimes, you're not only not helping the employer, you're not helping the employee many times. So we also talk about unintended consequences, and how is it that we can find more balance and ensure that we're really helping everybody get to the end that you really want, not have some unintended consequence.
Folks, again, if you're just joining us live right now, it's 6:19 here on the East Coast. And my guest tonight is the president and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Michele Siekerka joins us live here now on Real Talk. Again, folks, like, comment, and share, and check out njbia.org for more information if you're looking to get involved with the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. I'm glad you brought up the minimum wage. I remember being on some media shows in early 2018, right after the governor took office. And there was a lot of, again, a lot of progressives who kind of helped Phil Murphy get across the finish line in 2017, where now, again, they wanted the fruits for their rewards, right? They wanted that fruit for their labor, as they say, and they wanted that minimum wage being raised. And to your point, yeah, it didn't make sense to just sort of go all in and just raise it incrementally like that quickly. I mean, obviously we saw, increments, I think every 6 months, to where earlier this year, January 2024, was the last part of that cycle, right? I think part of that plan where it would go up to $15. Yeah. And it was just, and what's interesting to me is like, you can raise the minimum wage to $20. It still doesn't account for the fact that New Jersey is still arguably one of the most expensive states to live in. So I tell people all the time, it's like, are we arguing about living wage? Are we arguing about affordability? Are we arguing about taxes? Because I think that they're three very different things. And listen, I'm not an economist, even though I play one on TV sometimes. I mean, it's impossible to sort of have these conversations, though, Michele, because I think you almost have to compartmentalize everything, because these are three very separate issues that Trenton, I think, unfortunately, has undue influence on. Is that fair to say?
Well, I think what happens is every time you raise a cost for a business, it has to come from somewhere. So I'm going to go back again to what I said earlier, that this is not about, corporate greed and corporate welfare. Everyone immediately thinks, when you say the word business, everybody thinks everybody's a big fat cat. That is not the case. And especially in New Jersey, when we are predominantly small and mid-sized business, right? So every dollar has a place in the balance sheet. And when they're levers, so if you move one, you're going to have a reaction, reaction, right? So every time you increase the cost of doing business, where is the other lever you're pulling to make the balance sheet work? And oftentimes what worries us, and we saw this through inflation, right? If you keep increasing the cost of things, people have to be able to afford those things. So they may make more money, but the reality is if I'm paying them more money and I have to charge more for the service that they're delivering because I have to pay them more, the cost of the service or the product got more. So what good is it if I'm making, $15 an hour, but the hamburger now costs me $8 instead of $4? Right. So it's complicated. For every action, there is a reaction. Our concern always becomes when you put more of these mandates, more of these costs of business on, and it's got to be squeezed somewhere else. We don't want to see people lose their benefits. We don't want to see people lose share of their benefit. Healthcare is so expensive. One of the number one concerns for business, healthcare. Businesses want to provide that benefit to their workforce, but they can only afford so much of that pie. And as that keeps getting larger, right, they got to put more off on the employee. So now you're getting pressure from somewhere else. Well, I'm going back to my balance sheet. I'm saying, well, where am I finding that next, dollar? Where am I going to get that from? Do I have to cut hours? Do I have to cut staff? Do I have to cut benefits? Do I have to increase the cost of my product or service? Any one of those scenarios is no good for the outcome.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about goods and services and costs. And again, not to get overly political though, Michele, but a couple of weeks ago, I mean, there was a mandate, not just in New Jersey, but nationally. I think that the economy, the business climate to some extent, I think was the driving factor, of course, legal immigration as well. But I would argue that the economy, and despite the fact that, again, it depends where you get your information from, where, inflation had gone down slightly, unemployment had gone down slightly, but regular everyday people were not feeling that in their pockets. People were going grocery shopping. And, as I told people all the time on this show, it's like, yes, when you go grocery shopping, you have options on the keypad, cash, debit, credit card. I'm sorry, there's no option for selective moral outrage. It just seemed like people thought they could pay their groceries that way. And that's not the case. And I think that was an overwhelming factor. Again, the economy, the cost of goods and services, and a big war that came up during this campaign season between the 45th and thankfully the soon-to-be 47th president-elect and his opponent was this concept about tariffs. For my audience that maybe isn't clear about what tariffs are or the impact, can you just give us a breakdown here about what's the best way to explain tariffs and what impact do they have in the economy, Michele?
Yeah, tariffs are very, very complicated. And, many think that a tariff is punishing the country that's delivering the product. The reality is, we're paying for it when the product gets here on the other end. And an easy example of this is there are certain things that we just don't make in this country anymore. It's just not here, right? And it could be a piece of a supply chain of a manufacturer who's making a bigger product here in this country. But in order for them to get the final product, they need, 3 component parts that we just don't make in this country. So they have to go somewhere else to get it. Now, when they're going somewhere else to get it, if that's a tariffed, country or a tariff product, it's actually the person on this side who needs that, who's actually paying the cost because it comes back. So it's kind of like taxes. Like at the end, the person who's buying the product's paying for it. And so in this space, and I think you see all of the commentary coming out, what will a Trump administration look like? What's favorable for business, what's not, what should we be concerned about, what shouldn't we? Our DNA at NJBIA, we were born and bred on manufacturing 115 years ago, right? We were born as the New Jersey Manufacturing Association. We're still the vertical voice for manufacturing. I sit on the board of the National Association of Manufacturers, right? So manufacturing runs deep in our DNA. So we're looking at a lens from manufacturing. We're a little nervous about the discussion on tariffs and what that can mean. So now's the opportunity to educate and say, well, we understand the whole goal here is we want to onshore more, right? And we have onshored more. And we want to make it very difficult. And we want to, punish people that are taking advantage of us, overseas. That's fine for things that, we can compete on. But if we don't have certain products here and we need to get them from somewhere else in order for us to complete our task here, we got to be mindful of that when we're talking about this tariff policy.
I'm so glad you broke this down first, because I think it became such a polarizing word during the campaign season about tariffs and how are we going to get the economy back on track. What else did you hear during this election cycle, though, Michele, that I think from a business perspective needs some clarity? Because again, the economy, it depends who you ask, right? And I think whatever data was being presented on whatever cable news show, left or right, drove a certain narrative. What were some other talking points during the campaign season, again, concerning business and the economy, that you felt maybe wasn't discussed enough, or maybe was just misrepresented altogether?
Well, it was missed, and the word again is affordability. Like, what is affordability, and what is affordability for a business? Because it's not the same as affordability for an individual per se. Okay, and this is where we come all the time. So let's take an example here in the state of New Jersey. Let's talk about property tax for a minute. Everybody's favorite subject, one of them, right? So property tax, highest in the nation, property tax in New Jersey. And let's remember that New Jersey businesses pay about 50% of that property tax. Right? Don't forget that. Now, let's talk about property tax relief in New Jersey that we've had over the last few years. And I do that on purpose because relief means pay now and I'll give you something back later. Relief, okay? What we need in New Jersey is reform. But what we got over the past few years was the anchor program. The anchor program was meant to be another check that will cut back to certain people who have a certain eligible income at a certain point in time. Always happens to be about campaign season that those checks come, ironically, but put that aside, right? But the point of this is that relief can only come back if the money is there, all right? And it's only for a select group of people. It does nothing to change our status on where we are in terms of being the highest taxed in the nation. New Jersey, that anchor program, homeowners are eligible and renters are eligible, who are income eligible. There is no category for business to get any type of that relief. What about the small business, a one or two person shop, right, who's paying property tax on their business site? Why don't they get anchor relief? Same thing with Stay New Jersey, the senior stay program that allegedly is going to go into effect next year if the money is there for it, right? This is to keep seniors in New Jersey by property tax relief. Again, business pays 50%. Where's their property tax relief? So if we don't reform, business will never, ever get the benefit of any of that relief. And that's a really great example of, the difference of affordability for individuals and business. Now business just gets left at the curb.
You said it perfectly. That anchor check coming around, early October. I'm like, wow, geez. I mean, that's not transparent at all. I mean, whatsoever. And it was just like, as a renter myself, seeing the anchor checks were just like, and people, would tell me, oh, did you check your email today? Did you get that direct deposit? I'm like, okay, that's great. But it almost, I mean, maybe I'm oversimplifying this though, Michelle, but it just seemed like as a person who pays property taxes on properties, I'm just kind of getting my money back. Like, why does Trenton feel this need to sort of paint this picture of like, oh, well, we're giving you relief? No, we're just giving you your money back. That's how I looked at it. Am I wrong?
Well, no, the real concern is if the money's not there, you're not going to get that check back. And that's the fail safe for our policymakers. And that's why I say what we need is reform. We need to go back to the table and we need to understand, why do we pay the highest property taxes in the nation? There's reasons for it. I'm going to give you one example, how we fund education here in the state of New Jersey. I'm extremely proud of our K-12 education system here in the state of New Jersey. And any given day, we rank #1 in the nation and maybe sometimes #2 behind Massachusetts, right? And we get a great product for that. But there's two problems here. Number one, we're exporting too many of our high school students. So we pay the highest property taxes in the nation for the #1 K-12 delivery system for those students to go to college or move out of the state of New Jersey. We're still the #1 out migrator of 18 to 34-year-olds. Keep that in mind, okay? The second part of this is, if we vie with Massachusetts on any given day for that premier top spot of best K-12, why is it they can deliver it for 20% less than we can here in the state of New Jersey? So we should be peeling back those onions and understanding, right? How do we fund public education? Because it's still broken. We're on a broken education formula. The legislature is very proud that they're saying they're fully funding the current formula. The formula is broken. So it doesn't mean if you're fully funding it, you got a whole bunch of districts that are still left behind because the formula is broken.
Michelle, real quick, I'll let you finish your thought, but it's interesting when you bring up about schools and the perception. Last week, you go to Atlantic City and you go to the NJEA conference, you wouldn't hear any of that. You would hear, oh, we have the best schools in the country. Yes, the school funding formula needs to be addressed, but man, we have the best kids in the country. We have the best schools with curriculum. And I got to tell you that as someone who's worked in academia and works in education, listen, I'm fortunate here in Hudson County where I reside, where, one of the best school districts in the state is here that exhibited the least amount of learning loss during the pandemic, but that's not every school district. And then for the NJEA to say, well, yes, we have the highest property tax in the country, but you're getting great schools out of it. I think there's a little bit of a misconception there, Michelle. I'm sorry, I'll let you finish your point though.
No, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. There's the disconnect, because Massachusetts is doing, as good as we are, and they can do it for 20% less. And the second part of it is, but we're doing it on a #1 on a formula that's broken, okay, and #2 on a whole foundation that's broken, because too many of our kids, they graduate after we educate it. We made the investment; they're our future workforce, and then they leave. What investment is that in our future workforce if they leave? Right? We got to keep them here. So that's the second thing is, the cost of post-secondary education in the state of New Jersey is challenging for students as well. But that's a discussion for another day. We could, we could talk about education for 200 hours. And why do I feel that I can talk about this? I sat on a school board for over 12 years. I understand the system. Okay. All right. I over 12 years, I negotiated 6 labor contracts through the NJEA. I understand how it works, and I understand that formula, and I know how it's broken.
No, fair enough. Absolutely. It's interesting though, when we talk about, again, property taxes, that's always become such a big issue in New Jersey, because again, we have the highest ones in the nation. I think there was an NJ.com report early in the year that it went up once again. So the average is about $9,400 and change. I mean, where I live in Hudson County, again, my mayor, state senator, does a great job in keeping them very reasonable. But when I drive just a little bit north into southern Bergen County, I mean, we have towns like Alpine, Dumont, Cresco. I mean, we're talking about like $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 in property taxes. I go a little bit south into parts of Union County, down Route 78 and Springfield, Short Hills. My goodness, we're talking about over $20,000. So it kind of just makes you wonder, where does the money go? I understand it funds school districts, but by the same token, it's also kind of a concern about like, well, can there ever be a cap on this? Because it just seems like it's out of control.
I'll just say again, we need to go back to square one. This is an area where we need to sit and we need to take a blank piece of paper, and we need to really put, some really thoughtful minds together and look at best practices that are out there and how you fund education. And we need to take a run at it. But, continuing to fund a broken system is not an answer. And you can't call property tax relief sustainable, because it's not. Because I'll tell you, we're heading to the fiscal cliff in our budget. There's not going to be any money for those checks next year or the year after. Next year, you might get those checks. I can guarantee you 2026, there won't be any money for any relief checks. We're going to be in really dire straits here come 2026.
Wow. Well, speaking about 2026, that kind of leads us into the year before. And obviously, we're done with one election cycle. And New Jersey is one of those few states where there's an election literally every single year. Folks, I'm not kidding. And next year, obviously, we'll have all 80 assembly seats in the state assembly up for grabs. We'll have a lot of important municipal races. Case in point, up here in Hudson County, where I live, there'll be two very important mayoral races in Hoboken and in Jersey City, as well as city council races. I'll be covering the Parsippany mayoral race as well. But ultimately, the big race next year is the gubernatorial race. Now, again, Michele, I know you like to stay neutral, but I mean, thank the Lord, Phil Murphy is term limited. And next year, both the Democrat Party and Republican parties collectively are going to be putting up nominees for the upcoming June primary. Certainly no county line anymore. We all saw sort of the history that made this year with the elimination of it in the Democrat Party, and subsequently, I'm sure within the Republican Party as well, that'll come into fruition also. But, 8 years of Phil Murphy, to your point, yes, he didn't lie to us. He ran as a progressive. He told you he was going to tax you to death, that we were going to just, become almost California of the East. We saw it with electric vehicles and other things. Do you think that candidates next year might have to sort of pull away from the Phil Murphy years and say, hey, I don't want to be a third Murphy term, because quite frankly, we cannot afford it. So how do you see this field both on the Republican and Democratic side?
Well, I would tell you that I have a little bounce in my step, because I think the end result is going to be someone who is much closer to the middle and really represent the New Jersey that I know that we are, which is a much more purple type of state. We really are. If you look back in our history, we were not a very, very far left leaning state. We don't bleed blue. We never bled red. We were somewhere in the middle for many, many years and many, many times. I think what we do see in New Jersey oftentimes, maybe somewhat of, as we saw at the federal, we course correct every once in a while. People get, kind of fed up of where they are and how things are affecting them. And they say, you know what, sometimes it's not even about the candidate. It's like, I just need something different. And so they look for something different. If you look at our history, 4 years ago, Murphy broke a trend. He was the first Democratic governor in a few decades, frankly, that made it to a second term. Because historically, after 4 years of a more progressive Democrat in New Jersey, New Jerseyans put their hand on the wallet again and said, this is getting a little bit ill affordable for me. But I think what we saw 4 years ago, again, still was kind of that, anti-Trump backlash here in New Jersey. And again, I think this last election, the election was very close. Kamala won, but she did not win by a lot. And I think there was a lot of commentary that suggested you see New Jersey moving more again to the center, which is where I think we are. I think that we are much more of a purple state than people tend to think that we are.
Listen, we certainly saw that. The numbers told us that, yes, the 45th president and soon to be 47th president came within 4 or 5 percentage points of winning New Jersey for the first time. Again, for all you history fans out there, obviously New Jersey has voted blue since 1988, when it elected George H.W. Bush in 1988 with the state's 14 electoral votes. Obviously, it's been a solidly blue, Democrat candidate state since then. And the former president, soon to be 47th president, did a really good job, I think, in trying to compel people to vote on the economy, right, Michele? I think that was one of the, overlying issues that got people. Again, listen, I think the Biden administration was immensely unpopular. We saw that, right, with polling. And even though polling's not always an exact science anymore, we saw how unpopular the 46th president was, the economic policies, and how that was dooming his party. Subsequently, pushing him out of the way really did the party no favors. As the vice president, I think to some extent bared the wrath of voters when it came to the business climate, the economic climate. And we saw it across demographic. It wasn't just like, old white people. No, it was Hispanics. It was people of color. It was college-educated women and men. It was 18 to 25-year-olds. So when we think about the economy here, was this something that people just got smarter about when it came to this election cycle?
I think that the data speaks for itself. I think this was This election was a lot about tired of where we are, tired of what I'm feeling, tired of feeling that there's got to be something better and I need something different. And I think that's what the result was.
Without a doubt, I have to tell you that I think it's something that's definitely going to be studied for years to come when it comes to the current economic climate. But getting back to New Jersey, I think that certainly with the outstanding issues right now, not just the gubernatorial races in both parties, though, Michelle, I would say that, you know, with all 80 assembly seats up for grabs, I think it's a great opportunity maybe for some new blood, both on the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, to maybe push some new ideas when it comes to the economic climate in New Jersey. I'm assuming maybe you'll sit in on some panels, some think tanks, some discussions with possible candidates. What do you want to tell people maybe that are going to be running next year in assembly races about perhaps the smartest economic policies that they should be pushing as opposed to what's already in place?
All the things I've been talking about is, you know, what does affordability mean for New Jersey business? And how do we give New Jersey business a leg up versus, you know, push them further down? We need regulatory reform. We need tax reform. You know, these things are real. We need investments in the right places that help these businesses to advance, not policies that cause them to take the call when someone says, come and consider, you know, moving to our state. We can do better by you. It'll be more affordable here. And I just want to say one more thing about workforce. We've been extremely fortunate for decades to have the highest skilled workforce here in the state of New Jersey. We have more scientists and engineers per square mile than anywhere, in fact, in the entire world. People don't realize that. However, workforce and workplace of the future is a different thing. And this whole remote world and the ability to have your workforce in different places than they were before, not necessarily right in your own place of employment, this is something we got to pay big time attention to. Because the fact that we could always say it was our workforce that made our businesses stay here because they could tap the best talent in the world. In this remote world, you'd be able to be tapping that talent and they don't have to be living right here. And so those folks don't, you know, that next generation who can't afford to live here and start saying, I'm moving out, but my company's still going to allow me to work remote, right? Well, the same thing's going to happen. Other states are catching up to us on this. You know, Fernando, you could go back decades ago. The Northeast led in transportation for how long, right? I mean, transportation started in the Northeast, and our rail lines and our highways and our systems were the best in the world. And we got a little complacent and a little kind of fat and happy on that. And other states started, you know, getting all the grants, all the federal grants, all the DOT grants. And we're like, what happened in the Northeast? And like, well, you guys aren't collaborating anymore. Well, you guys got a little fat and happy, right? Let's make sure we don't do that with our workforce. Let's not take our eye off the prize on our next generation workers. And let's be really, really conscious of the fact that the future of work is so dynamic. It changes by the day, right? It's not just about where we work and how we work. It's AI, it's technology, it's all these things. So as this continues to change, we need to make sure that we got our eye on the workforce and this whole idea that we can pluck workforce from another country to work for us remotely now, right? Can we compete with that here?
Absolutely. Michelle, let me ask you this. You just mentioned about the workforce, and not sure if any of the candidates have said this openly. Maybe they'll be asked about it again, because again, it goes back to that A word, affordability. If you were to hear a candidate, either Republican or Democrat, saying, yeah, you know what, we just went through 4 years of a process going to raise the minimum wage, maybe we should raise it again. What are some dangers about that? And what do you want to warn legislators or potential candidates that are trying to win the governor's office about? Hey, maybe you should stay away from wanting to, you know, I know you want to galvanize people, you want to like energize certain bases, but you know, if you hear people saying, for example, out in California, I mean, I think we've heard it going up to $20 an hour. If you hear a candidate saying that in this next election cycle, Michelle, what do you want to warn them against?
Let the market dictate. We can't afford that right now. I mean, look at the economy right now. We're still, you know, we're just stabilizing just the littlest bit on inflation. You can't put any more pressures on these companies. You just cannot put any more pressures on these companies, because what you're going to do, again, when you push on this trigger, it's whack-a-mole. You put one down, something else is going to pop up. And what's going to pop up is the cost of the products and services is going to go up again. And we can't afford that as a society. We can't afford it as an economy. We can't afford it.
I mean, the reason I ask is, let's be fair. I mean, nothing's going to galvanize the working class population. Again, certain voter demographics, right? Especially with the Democrat Party. people might say, well, you're not doing enough for affordability. I mean, we have to earn more to live here. And to your point, I think it's just sort of understanding basic economics about the marketplace. I mean, what have we seen when it comes to innovation, right? When it comes to certain jobs that, to be fair, self-checkouts, whatever, again, it's not to say that the human element is not important, but let's be fair, companies have gotten smarter when it comes to managing their workforce. And case in point, whether it be Starbucks or other companies that, let's say, the workforce has decided to unionize, listen, I'm not anti-union. I've been part of a union for many, many years. No one's saying that we don't need working conditions to be better for workers. No one's saying that. But the idea that maybe at times some unions, Michele, have unrealistic expectations about collective bargaining rights, I think that's a fair argument. Not because I'm a conservative and I'm railing against workers, but I think it's realistic to say that, hey, I think if you don't have a good understanding about collective bargaining and labor rights, you can't beat that drum. You can only do it so often until it's almost like the boy crying wolf.
Well, I want to take two things on this issue. Number one is, let's just talk about the automation for a moment, right? And let's go back to COVID, and we were coming out of COVID. People weren't coming back to those jobs. People were not coming back to those jobs. So what did we expect? We expected that companies needed to automate certain processes and services, okay? But you still need people to make sure that the automated processes are working. All right. So this is an augmentation. It isn't a direct out replacement. But when people aren't showing up to take jobs, what are you going to do? You got to still deliver the product or the service. So you find a way to do it. And that's where automation comes in, right? A little bit of chicken and egg there. But the other important thing is, we keep talking about, when you talk about minimum wage, let's talk about an entry level position, right? And let's just think for a moment that we aspire as individuals and as people, right, to achieve. And we talk all the time that when someone comes into an entry level position, it should be just that. It's entry level. And from that point forward, you should be and have the responsibility to increase your skills, your education, whatever it takes to go one up from that level, so you can organically increase the value that you give and you bring to whatever that company is, no matter what it is, right? So I don't think as a society we were meant for people to live on entry level wages for the whole of their career. I think as a society, the whole idea of an entry level wage was just that. It was to enter the door, and it was then to learn and build your skills. And as you organically increase your own skill set, you organically increase your earning capacity. And I think we got to get back to that. And this is why at BIA, we spend so much time on workforce development, trying to give the one up on those folks who are caught somewhere in the middle, people who maybe fell out of the post-secondary, the entry-level worker, and say, how can we help to build your skills so you can organically increase your earning capacity so we don't have to worry about consistently lifting the floor on the entry-level position?
Absolutely well said there. Folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 6:47 here on the East Coast. We're about to wrap up here with the distinguished president and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, Michele Siekerka, here live on Real Talk. Michele, it's been a very tumultuous year, right? Obviously, we're going into the next year. What can we expect from the NJBIA when it comes to either workshops or symposiums? I know you'll continue working with legislators and the current governor, future candidates, obviously, to see whoever is the next governor in itself. What can we look forward to when it comes to 2025?
So we're already there at NJBIA. We always stay 1, 2, 3 steps ahead. So we've already been putting together the agenda for the next governor. And we will have that white paper ready the day after the primary. And when we know who the two candidates are, and that said, don't think we're not working with all of them now, because we've had them all in. They've all been into our members. We've had them in for, I won't call them interviews, but our opportunity to ask some questions about what would an XYZ administration mean for New Jersey business. We've had them all in, every one of them, except for Mikey Sherrill and Josh Gottheimer, because they just announced. So we'll have them in too. But spoiler alert, on December 4, we have our public policy forum in the morning from 8:30 to 1 o'clock. And the last panel on that day is the gubernatorial candidates. And as of right now, we have 5 that are confirmed to join us. We have a few that were conflicted, and we're not sure if our newest entrants to the game will be able to join us, because it is a DC congressional day. And so we know that we got some folks that have to be down in DC that day as well. But so we're putting the agenda together. We're already there. And in the meantime, because look, we walk and chew gum, right? So we're planning for the future, and we're in the now. And we're working with our legislature right now on a fall agenda that we're very happy. We're advancing some things. Won't give any spoiler alerts, but we're working very hard on some regulatory reform that we're feeling pretty good about. And so we'll see what the new year has to bring, but we're feeling pretty good that we're going to get a couple of footballs across the goalpost.
Okay, good to see that. Michele, again, it's a non-profit, nonpartisan organization, but again, and not to get overly political here on the show, even though it is a political program. I mean, again, I'm a fiscal conservative, so I'm always concerned about the harm of progressive policies. We've seen it across the river. We've seen it 3,000 miles away in California and other states as well. I mean, am I just being too hysterical when I'm just simply the only journalist, beating the drums about like, hey, New Jersey's going down this fiscal rabbit hole that it just cannot afford, and progressive policies have killed this state? Am I just being too hysterical, or are there some practical progressive policies that maybe I'm not giving a chance to, or other conservatives are not giving a chance to in the state, that maybe, deserve a second chance or a second look?
So I think the challenge is, look, we're at that fiscal cliff. I'll say it again. Just look at the budget. When Murphy first came in, the budget was 37 billion. We're at 56 billion. All right. That's like an almost 80% increase. That is not sustainable. I'll repeat, that is not sustainable. All right. The next governor has their hands full. Don't know what, how they're gonna approach. There's going to be cutting, because everybody knows there's no place left to tax. I mean, there's just no place left to tax. You cannot use the old adage, pay your fair share, because, you got to really pay more than their fair share. I'm going to repeat again, New Jersey businesses not only pay the highest corporate business taxes in the nation, but we are an outlier by far. Okay. Outlier by far. Nobody else is even in double digits. So just that those 800-ish that are at the super premium of the surcharge of the 11.5, that's super outstanding there. But at 9%, we're still in the top 4 most expensive in the country, right?
Sure.
That just can't be. And I'll repeat, we pay 50% of property tax. All right, highest property tax in the nation. Yeah. 2 strikes against us, right? Do I have to keep going, right? Do I have to keep going here? So we can't talk about more taxing. We have to talk about reeling it in. And the next governor is gonna have to find a way to do that.
Michele, any data that you've come across, again, as the NJBIA continues to compile information, obviously, as you're speaking to the governor, speaking to legislators, speaking to candidates, you just mentioned you'll be having a workshop coming up soon with the declared gubernatorial candidates. Again, maybe this is above my pay grade, but I'm going to ask you. I mean, obviously, you're much more educated on this than I am. Is there really a way to fix New Jersey transit in this state? Is it really about privatizing it? I mean, why has this gone so wrong for so long with so many different governors? And yes, one party has ruled the legislature for over 20 years, but it just seems like an entity like New Jersey Transit just cannot get it right. Any data you can share with us today that maybe there's some rainbow over the horizon coming up, or is it just another doomed state agency?
So, I don't want to be doom and gloom, because I like to be glass half full girl. But the reason why I can't tell you that there's data is because we thought that we were going to get data. We thought the whole idea was, let's audit New Jersey Transit to understand where the challenges are, so we could address them for what they are, not just come out with this corporate transit fee and throw money at it. Look, this last budget cycle, it wasn't just the corporate transit fee of $1 billion that, please let me remind you, is sitting in surplus right now. So transit isn't even getting it till next year. And I'm a betting girl. I'm not betting transit's getting that $1 billion next year. Okay. Right. But that $1 billion is sitting in surplus right now. But let's also remember, there was a fare increase. So there was a fare increase that took place about the exact same time. And the gas tax, the TTF, the reinvestment in TTF, there was a large percentage. I don't know exact number, but I think like 40% of that went to transit, and the other 60%, went to DOT. So there are 3 buckets of money that were out there for New Jersey Transit, right? Without doing the audit to step back and say, what's wrong, what's broken. We know ridership is way off since, post-COVID. again, behavior has changed. We need to stop and we need to reassess. We've got so much opportunity. Talk about, let's use technology. Let's understand. Let's build and understand the algorithms behind how this works. But in all fairness to New Jersey Transit and our great state of New Jersey, we're not the only transportation system that is troubled. You see strike in Pennsylvania. You see what's going on in SEPTA. You see what's going on in New York, right? We're not alone. I think that sadly, mass transportation as a segment, as a vertical, needs to be looked at for behaviors, for the right investment and the right time. And we need to step back and take a deeper look at all of that.
You make it real quick, since you mentioned about transportation, obviously a lot in the news cycle, though, Michele, about this congestion pricing that I would argue is going to ultimately really harm New Jersey residents. And it just seems like, very much like New Jersey Transit can get out of its own way. It just seems like the MTA in New York, that should be, you want to talk about getting audited, that should get audited like yesterday. I mean, it's crazy how now even so many New Jerseyans are going to be adversely affected by this potential congestion pricing. And it just seems like there seems to be this sort of perception out there that Governor Murphy maybe isn't as adamant or outraged as he should be when, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans commute to New York City on a daily basis. And you would think this would take precedent right now.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, he came out against it. I mean, we sued against it the first time, and he's not going to sit quietly on this. And the answer can't be, well, now it's only $9. Now that's plus $9. Okay. That's just like, it's just like when the governor said, I'm going to go back to corporate transit fee for a moment. When the governor said, well, I actually gave a tax decrease to all the other companies that were paying the 11.5 before, because, when this only affects those with $10 billion of revenue or higher, $10 million of revenue or higher, right? That's only about 800 companies. So everybody else is getting a tax break. I'm like, no, they're not. A surtax was, an add-on that was supposed to go away at some point in time. It's not a tax decrease. So you can't say, oh, now it's only $9, so it's any better. No. It's plus $9. It's terrible. It is terrible for New Jersey, and it shouldn't be allowed to happen. And frankly, there's going to be a lot of challenges, and it'll be interesting to see where it lands.
It's certainly, and I'm sure, again, it'll be a big talking point for all the gubernatorial candidates coming up in 2025 when it comes.
Many of them have spoken to it already. Absolutely.
Sure. And it'll continue to be one, as I'm sure that whoever wins a year from now, well, less than a year from now, they're going to be at odds with Governor Hochul in New York. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for the next year. Michele, before I let you go, I know you did mention some great things coming up in 2025. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, sort of the answer will come with the question, but you've been with the New Jersey Business and Industry Association for quite some time now. What's been arguably maybe your biggest achievements? What's been some of the best things you can brag about? And what are still some hurdles that your organization still faces?
Yeah, thank you. So I've actually been here. I just celebrated my 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
So there was some time for reflection, right? So, I'll go back to the early days. Big achievement was the elimination of estate tax in New Jersey. That was a really big deal. And that was in exchange for the Transportation Trust Fund. Look, they were going to go ahead and and that was Governor Christie. Governor Christie was going to do that. That Transportation Trust Fund was going to get authorized. That money, that gas tax was going to happen. So what could we do? Let's get something back for it. And the 2 years elimination of state tax, huge difference for people who want to stay in this state. And now can, because they don't have to worry about that estate tax. That was a really, really big deal. But if I have to say, crowning glories, a lot of what we did during COVID in the darkest times become the best opportunities when you're facing challenge. And the way we were in the trenches with our businesses, we have some really great stories about how we got, salons and dance schools back open because everybody forgot about them. I mean, I love in 24 hours, I had 300 dance school owners sign a letter to Governor Murphy that was on his desk in 24 hours saying, here's why we should be open. Right. Well, what does that mean when you're saying dance schools, Michele? These are children's after school activities that are tens of thousands of businesses across the state of New Jersey that we don't think of. Remember, Fernando, what I said at the very beginning, right? Everybody thinks of business, corporate greed, corporate welfare. They think the big guys. They forget about all these Main Street mom and pops, these companies that run our economy, right? That make our great communities, that make our great businesses. And there we were in the trenches with them doing some really, really cool stuff. So I got a lot of fun COVID stories that really, make me feel really good at the heart of what boots on the ground means for NJBIA.
Again, Michele, congratulations on 10 years with the NJBIA. I mean, you're doing great work. You continue to be a great advocate, not just for the business community and really about understanding the economics about what's going on, but you make it so easy to hear and process. Where, again, as I mentioned before, I'm not an economist, even though I play one on TV sometimes here, but it's so gratifying to hear you come out on this program and really sort of break down these topics that are not always easy to discuss. I mean, again, people talk about kitchen table issues and living room issues, right? During an election cycle, and families sit down and talk about. These are not easy issues to digest, to sort of process, and then sort of, again, regurgitate back in conversations. And you do such a wonderful job in, I would argue, in really explaining this at a level that, quite frankly, I think transcends all demographics when it comes to understanding about economics and the business climate here in New Jersey. I'm really grateful for you coming on this show. Are you going to be at the League of Municipalities this week? I'm not sure if NJBIA has an event or anything.
We go to everyone else's event. So we break up, we divide and conquer. We'll be everywhere. You'll see a BIA person at probably every single event over the next few days. So two bowls of Wheaties and an extra cup of coffee, and we're off to the races.
Well, I was going to tell you, I'll shoot you an email because I'm going to all the parties, and you won't be able to miss me. That's for sure. So hopefully we can catch up. It'd be great to meet you in person. But I'm ever so grateful for for what you do with the NJBIA, and I'm grateful that you believe in this program. You come on here, we have great conversations, very illuminating and educational conversations. Folks, again, for more information or to get involved with the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, please visit their website, www.njbia.org. Make sure you like them on Facebook. Of course, follow them on Instagram and Twitter. Michele, I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for coming on. I'll give you the last word here on Real Talk.
I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. And I just want to repeat, I'm going to remain glass half full no matter how challenging it is. This is a great state. I love our great state, New Jersey. I got big blue and gold pom-poms. I'm out there championing the cause. I'm incredibly proud to stand up and represent the business community in the state of New Jersey, because it's those great business leaders that make those great businesses that builds our great communities. So thanks, Fernando.
Michele, God bless you. Once again, folks, she is Michele Siekerka, the president and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Michele, God bless you. I'll see if I run into you at the league. And if I don't, have a great Thanksgiving and a great holiday season. Thank you so much for joining us here on Jersey First TV. Folks, great stuff there with Michele Siekerka, again, the president and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Folks, a lot to digest there about what's going on in our business climate here in New Jersey, and certainly what's going on with the current economy, whether it's about the minimum wage, whether it's about automation, whether it's about dissecting the workforce and how that continues to evolve. Folks, I'll make the case here. I'll plant the flag. I'll die on that hill, as they say. Nobody gives us better data and better information than the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Once again, check out their website, www.njbia.org. And if you're looking to get involved, again, you'll see them during the League of Municipalities. Go up to them and say hi. They're doing great work each and every day. Folks, it's a little after 7 o'clock here on the East Coast. And again, I want to thank you for joining us here on the program. Again, if you're just joining us live, like, comment, and share tonight's episode of Real Talk on all of your social media platforms. I cannot say enough how grateful I am to all of you that continue to help make Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on the Jersey First Television Network an overwhelming success, folks, like real traffic, because it's Real Talk here, and I cannot thank you enough. And I'm deeply humbled by all your support. I'm not the most humble guy around. I'm probably the least humble person you'll ever meet, but I'm humbled by your support and your devotion to this program each and every week. 4 years and counting, folks, as we started this really at the height of the pandemic on June 1st in 2020. And guess what? 4 years later, we're still raising hell. We're still asking questions, and we're still bringing you the exclusive guests that, let's be honest, other journalists in New Jersey just can't or won't bring on for interesting and educational conversation. That's never, folks, here on this show, You're never going to be worried about that. We bring you the topics and the conversations that you're always looking for in today's political climate and also in today's business climate as well. Folks, don't go anywhere because you know what it's time for? It's time for final thoughts. And I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, last week I talked about it at length, and it was ever so enjoyable cooking all of the clowns behind me, whether it be in the New Jersey media, activism, government work, you name it, folks. There was no shortage of cooking to go around last week after, again, the re-election of the 45th president and now soon to be the 47th president, as he is the president-elect, Donald Trump. Again, as you can see the shirt right there behind me, folks, I'm going to rock that shirt, and that's all my gear. For those of you that know me, you know all I do is rock cowboy hoodies, no matter if they're doing well or doing poorly. I do that every winter. But guess what, folks? I'm getting a lot of Trump Vance hoodies to wear during the winter seasons and coming up here. So I'm excited about that. But folks, again, I don't want to sort of dwell on too many people. I want to dwell on one person this week. And here's a guy who, you know, I have my bone to pick with him, and that's Uncle Dave, David Cruz. Yes, folks, arguably one of the laziest journalists in New Jersey media. And that's saying a lot because we have a lot of lazy journalists like Max Pizarro, you know, Maxie, the editor-in-chief of Insider NJ, who never leaves his house. See, I'll give Uncle Dave his due. He leaves his house either to go to the Gateway Center in downtown Newark, right? And NJ Spotlight News Studios, go to the food court, whatever, right? And I'm sure he'll go to the League of Municipalities because, folks, there's a lot of open bars and there's a lot of free food. And if we all know about David Cruz, he's not going to pass up free food, let's be honest. But folks, what's really irritating and insufferable about David Cruz, and again, he's sort of part of the bigger problem in New Jersey media. Because what we saw during this election cycle, very much like others in New Jersey media, and again, I've talked about them at length, right? Because they're not journalists anymore, folks. Let's be very honest about what's happened to the establishment media in New Jersey. They've become full-blown propagandists. Whether it be Tom Moran, with the soon-to-be out-of-business Star Ledger, whether it's Ron Zentlinger with the soon-to-be out-of-business Jersey Journal, whether it's Chucky Charles Style with NorthJersey.com and the Bergen Record, right? Whether it's full-blown propagandists with TDS, like little JJJ Lassiter with Insider NJ, Alan Steimer, who, by the way, yeah, it's 7:08. Yeah, it's way past his bedtime. So Sleepy Al won't see this until tomorrow because he can't help himself. He'll always tune in. Trust me, folks. He tunes in. Don't kid yourself. Right? Or Bob Hennelly, or Alan Levin, or John Van Vliet, or the rest of the clowns at Insider NJ. Folks, again, these are all full-blown propagandists, and they got what's coming to them during this election cycle. Because you can only keep pushing the usual Trump derangement syndrome and the same woke nonsense during an election cycle. Right? But Uncle Dave was really egregious because when Uncle Dave had a chance to sort of separate himself from the rest of the propagandists, he decided to double down. And let's go to some clips that really, I think, reinforce how insufferable Uncle Dave is when it comes to talking about this election cycle. So let's go to cut one.
Our special days, man. Can we start with the ¿Qué pasó? What happened? Was it message? Was it messenger?
Yeah, I feel like you should have on a tarot reader instead of a political science professor. That might be more helpful. Get some cards out here.
Right.
Look, I think.
By the way, folks, Uncle Dave, folks, again, and just to get a little bilingual here, folks, is there a bigger cara de come mierda in New Jersey media than Uncle Dave? Let's just go back there, right? Seriously. And the reason I can say this in Spanish is because I speak Spanish fluently, because I was raised by parents that value the importance of being bilingual, unlike Dave, who can barely speak English, right? Because we all know he can't speak Spanish, right? But think about just the condescension. Folks, I think that sentence in Spanish is probably the most he could say in a day. But let's continue on with this little virtue singing by this Rutgers professor. And Uncle Dave, of course, ejaculating all over himself about, the way to look at this election cycle and sort of the autopsy about what the Democrat Party did so horribly wrong during this election cycle.
Professor, that might be more helpful. Get some cards out here.
Right.
Look, I think, clearly the polls. Democrats were mistaken in their belief that somehow the American electorate was ready to reject Donald Trump a second time. And I think in hindsight, the favorables for the Biden administration, or I should say the unfavorables, were too overwhelming to overcome. But more significantly is this kind of reality that the Trump phenomenon is really a movement that has altered, potentially for some time, but certainly for the time being, altered the way the American electorate is participating and showing its displeasure. And that's something that Democrats are going to have to deal with, at least for the immediate future.
Now, again, folks, listen, I'm a student of the game, as they say, and I certainly watch every brand of media. I watch the Young Turks, which are arguably the most progressive opinion journalists out there in the media landscape, right? I watch Fox News, I watch Newsmax. I certainly listen to Steven Crowder. I listen to Ben Shapiro. I listen to Piers Morgan. Folks, I listen to everything and watch everything because, again, that is what a broadcast journalist is supposed to do, is to continue learning about his craft. Because, folks, I'm not lazy on this show. I'm like Uncle Dave. Like, I actually make it a point to do work. Okay? I work all year. Unlike other journalists who sit around for 6 months and I don't know what Dave's doing during the summer. Okay, he's not riding a bike. He's not burning calories. So, I mean, what are you doing other than voiceovers? But again, folks, Uncle Dave is a part of a bigger problem because Uncle Dave, again, is part of that establishment media in New Jersey. Part of an establishment media that continue to raise the alarm bells about abortion and reproductive rights and about not being more outraged about illegal immigration, right? Or the colony of the alphabet mob, which we continue to see, not just nationally, but also in New Jersey. About an economy that wasn't working for everyday people, right? But where Uncle Dave really, again, accentuates the levels of insufferable that is Uncle Dave is sitting down with Governor Murphy. And just listen to this clip, folks, how tone deaf and myopic Uncle Dave is. I mean, not any more than usual. But this is how tone deaf he is. Let's go to this clip here as he spoke with the governor about what went wrong during this election cycle. And check out the hysteria that Uncle Dave is still peddling, which we all know is bullshit. But then again, when it comes to peddling what he thinks is news, folks, NJ Spotlight News excels at providing you bullshit. Because that's all they're good for. Let's go. Next cut.
You want to be a diplomat, but what happens when he starts talking about mass deportations, and arresting opponents, ending civil service, a national abortion ban?
Yep.
Those are things that he has said he wants to do. Are you one of those who are like, well, don't take him for literally for everything?
No. There's no common ground. Let me be crystal clear. There's no common ground on any of those items. And we will fight like hell, and we'll fight to the death.
Now, again, folks, I get that Uncle Dave needs a refresher. And I get it, Uncle Dave's like 81, 82 years old. So I get that collectively your memory isn't what it used to be. And I don't want to sort of paint it with a broad brush. My dad's going to be 80 in March. And let me tell you something. My dad is as sharp as a knife. And I'm really blessed with that. Clearly, Uncle Dave isn't. But let me give a reminder to Uncle Dave, as well as the rest of the hysterics that I talk about on this show. Okay? Here in New Jersey, David, again, and if you kind of put that extra sandwich down and, do some reading, okay, you would remember, David, that access to an abortion is codified into state law here in New Jersey up until the 9th month of a pregnancy. Now, I think that's infanticide, but again, I understand there are certain exceptions, right? Which I'm all in favor for. Okay. But let's be honest, David. You keep peddling this hysteria, very much like everybody else, very much like all of these like hysteric feminists and cat ladies in New Jersey, where I can smell the cat piss to my house right now as we're recording live. Why do you keep peddling the same propaganda? Again, it's codified into state law. Okay. Here in New Jersey, okay. And folks, sports season's well underway. We just had the World Series in October, right? The NFL is well underway. The NBA is back. The NHL is back. The MLS playoffs are there. College football. I mean, again, there's no shortage of things to go watch. So every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, folks, it's football, it's sports, it's Sunday fun day. So for a bunch of men and women that get to wake up Monday morning after maybe next to someone maybe they're going to regret waking up next to, David, guess what? Plan Bs are available at your local Walgreens, CVS's, and Duane Reade's. And they're right behind the counter. I know. I've had to buy a good amount of Plan Bs. So I know what they look like and I know what they cost. Okay. Yes. Thank the Lord. It's gone down from $51 down to $31. Okay. So where exactly is this hysteria about, oh my God, women and their uteruses, and oh my God, women are going to be relegated to the Handmaid's Tale? No, David. Just like you and the rest of the hysterics in New Jersey media. Again, whether it's Matt Friedman, whether it's Tom Moran, whether it's Alan Steinberg, Charles Stile, Jay Lassiter, Max Pizarro, Alan Levin, John Van Vliet. Okay? All of you, and even Sophie Nieto Munoz, all you hysterics are out there pushing this nonsense. Where exactly is reproductive freedom under attack in New Jersey? But you gladly go along with all these congressional candidates and Senate candidates in pushing this hysteria. Okay? In a time when illegals are flooding across our border, right? Overcrowding our schools, a lot of these illegals having kids here, overcrowding our emergency rooms, using up our social services, right? But not a peep from Uncle Dave, right? Not a peep. Okay. But you'll keep peddling this same nonsense over and over again. David, you should know better. And I get it. You've been in the business forever. And I'll give you your flowers. You cut your teeth in the business here in Hudson County. You've paid your dues into the business. I get all that. You've earned the right to some extent to take it easy a little bit. But folks, what Uncle Dave has done is gone from taking it easy to being full-blown lazy. Like David Cruz es vago. David Cruz es un huevón que no hace nada ya anymore. That's the truth about David Cruz. Now, again, I'm the only one courageous enough to say, because, again, I don't need a job in media. I do really well for myself here. I make money with this, and I'm good. But, folks, the reason I go after David Cruz and the rest of these propagandists masquerading as journalists. Folks, Halloween passed weeks ago. But someone forgot to tell David Cruz that he's still masquerading as a journalist when we all know he isn't one. So Uncle Dave and to everybody else with, the usual Trump derangement syndrome, if you want to know why the Democrat Party lost this year, lost the Senate, wasn't able to win back the House, and lost the presidency, is because of numbers like this. It's because men and women decide to vote for the 45th president. It's not racism or misogyny. Uncle Dave sat there and insulted your intelligence, saying, oh, well, Donald Trump wants to get rid of civil service. He's never said that. What he wants to do is cut down on fat in the federal government, Dave. Okay? There's 438 federal agencies. If you don't think there needs to be some sort of, cost-cutting measures in Washington, then I don't know what to tell you. Then you're even more oblivious than I thought you were. And that's saying something, because I think you're completely oblivious. Okay? Donald Trump, on multiple occasions, said he was not ever going to endorse a national abortion ban. And even though he has a majority in the Senate now, thank the Lord, so we can get judges nominated and appointed accordingly. Okay? There's no talk about totalitarianism or fascism. And I get that Uncle Dave wants to beat the drums of hysteria, just like everybody else in New Jersey media and all these activists, all the usual insufferable feminists and cat ladies. Take your pick. Patty Campos Medina, Amy Torres, Sarah Clanany. Let me guess who else. The insufferable women that make the road, New Jersey Citizens Action, Who else? The New Jersey Working Families Party. Folks, take your pick. Okay, Women for Progress. Take your pick at all the insufferable women in New Jersey media and activism and academia and government work. Folks, Hetty Rosenstein, this woman has had a real job in forever. She's going to lecture you about how you should spend your money, how the economy's working for everybody. No, it's not, sweetheart. I get it. You're like 97 years old. You haven't picked up a book in God knows how long. You're the last person that should be opining. Or the rest of the people that I've named last week and will continue to name. Okay? Uncle Dave, again, represents a bigger problem about how you're still so myopic and still don't understand the electorate. Forget about polling. No one cares about polling. I talk to people on the ground. I leave my house. I actually talk to people, David. People who canvass and phone bank and knock on doors in nearby Pennsylvania, in nearby New York, in nearby Delaware, who told me conclusively the reason Donald Trump was going to win is because people are tired of the current economic climate. And it wasn't because of racism or misogyny. I am tired of the bullshit. And you push this all the time, David. You should be ashamed of yourself. Then again, that would require you to have shame to begin with. And we all know you don't have any. But stop peddling the usual bullshit, because that's what you excel at, as well as NJ Spotlight News. I want to put everybody into the same bunch because it's kind of unfair to paint with the same broad brush. But Dave, you're leading the way. Okay, you can see it there by the numbers behind me. 18 to 25-year-olds came out in big numbers for Donald Trump. Why? Because they're concerned that when they graduate college, maybe they can't afford a first home or a first rental property or a first property altogether. That they're not going to have enough take-home pay to be able to pay back their loans, which will still be suffocating them. Or men and women of color, black and brown, who saw what a disaster the Biden administration was. And also under Kamala Harris, because she's the sitting vice president. You think David Cruz will ever say that? Of course not. He would rather virtue signal, okay, and have clowns on his show like George Lopez and John Leguizamo, which offer nothing to the Hispanic community, okay? Two out-of-touch Hispanic Hollywood liberals who haven't worked a hard day in their lives in God knows how long, they're going to tell you what's best for you. And Uncle Dave would parade them out thinking that he knows what's best for you. Uncle Dave doesn't know shit. And I'm proud to say that, because what he does consistently is push the same hysterical narrative that got Democrats booted out of the Senate and got the 45th president reelected to now become the 47th president. And we saw it across all age demographics. 18 to 25, 30 to 49, 50 and above. Even that high demographic that Dave is under, 80 people 80 years old and above, even they came out for Donald Trump because they understood the importance of not taxing Social Security or making sure that groceries are more affordable. Folks, if anyone should be up in arms about how expensive groceries are, it's Uncle Dave. You would think, right? Porque la comida es más cara ahora. If anyone's going to complain about la comida que cuesta más, it's going to be Uncle Dave. Let's be honest. Okay. But Uncle Dave, very much like the rest of the establishment media, let you down. And they're going to keep letting you down. You know why? Because they would rather peddle the usual identity politics nonsense. And instead of calling out the nonsense of wokeism, Uncle Dave will just double down. He'll have activists on that will insult your intelligence. Because again, I'm Hispanic, Dave, just like you. The only difference is I speak Spanish. I speak multiple languages, unlike you. But the idea of even encouraging people to come on your show and talk about Latinx, there's no Latinx. There's Latinos and Latinas because there's two genders. Again, I get it that Uncle Dave in his early 80s took high school biology maybe 70 years ago at whatever high school he went to in Jersey City. But understand that wokeism, a horrible economy, the idea that we're still spending billions of dollars and sending them overseas to corrupt regimes like Ukraine, and not having a more forceful presence in the world. See, none of that matters to Uncle Dave. See, Uncle David, very much like a lot of elected officials in New Jersey, especially at the municipal level, I can tell you nearby in Hoboken is a good example. See, Uncle Dave would rather make sure that you worry about pronouns than property taxes, that you worry more about pronouns than public safety. As illegals are flooding our streets, committing crimes, in some cases felonies, in some cases homicides. Okay, but ¿qué le importa Uncle Dave? As long as Uncle Dave goes to the food court at Gateway Center and he's filling his tummy, ¿qué le importa? ¿Qué le importa? But for real people in the real world that work real jobs, like, me, because I work 45, 50, 60 hours a week. Real world issues matter, David. Not to you. I mean, if you work 60 hours in a month, that's a lot. But to real people like myself that work 50, 60 more hours a month, folks, that's why Donald Trump won the election. Because it's real world issues. Okay? It's real world issues. Okay? And at the end of the day, when we think about what governed this election cycle, and we'll see what happens in New Jersey, right? Next year, during the gubernatorial race, guess what? Affordability, the economy, taxes, spending, public safety, these issues are still going to be quite pervasive in the election cycle. David, again, not trying to tell you how to do your job, but do me a favor, bro. Just do it better. We all deserve it. Even if you don't think we do. It's a shame, folks. There was a time when people respected David Cruz as a journalist. Those days are long gone. Because when you think about David Cruz, you don't think about journalism. You should think about full-blown propaganda. Dave, again, do better. You should be ashamed of yourself. But then again, that would require David Cruz to have shame to begin with. And we all know that Uncle Dave doesn't have it. And it's interesting because when we think about Uncle Dave, we think about the disservice he does to journalism. Well, hey, if NJ Spotlight News wants to keep paying him, you know what? Then you want to throw money away. Well, there's probably other things you can spend your money on that are better served. And those are my final thoughts. Once again, folks, I want to thank Michele Siekerka, the president and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, of course, for an excellent and very informative conversation tonight. Again, you check out their website, www.njbia.org, for more information about the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Again, doing great things under her leadership for 10 years and counting. Folks, once again, I want to thank you all for tuning into the program tonight. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media. Of course, I can't say enough how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media, folks. That's right. It is always Jersey First TV. Brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, hosted by the outstanding Elizabeth Nader. And of course, brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malillo premiere every Thursday as well. Of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe premiere every Monday night. Check your local listings for start times. And folks, again, I cannot say enough. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like us on Facebook, of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. It takes 2 seconds. Like, comment, and share about all the great programming we bring you here at the Jersey First Television Network. And of course, download us on Spotify or SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast, and take it with you, whether you're doing errands, whether you're driving down to the League of Municipalities, as I know some people are this evening, if not tomorrow morning. I know I will be. Folks, take Jersey First TV with you anywhere at any time. And speaking of the League of Municipalities, folks, I'll be there starting tomorrow afternoon. Come up and say hi to all the fans. I love you. Come up and say hello to me. I always welcome the interactions. And to all the haters, come up and say hi too. I mean, you have a lot of keyboard courage. Why don't you like show some courage in real life and come up and say hi too at the league? I look forward to seeing you. Folks, once again, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Real Talk right here on the Jersey First Television Network. I am New Jersey's premier and now 10-time award-winning journalist. Of course, Top Latino is voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine. Of course, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative, and I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, because my level of honesty, folks, now more than ever, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is me, the people's choice and the people's voice, the generational talent in New Jersey media. It's Fernando Uribe. Folks, have a great rest of your week. I'll see you all at the League of Municipalities. Come up and say hi. I look forward to seeing everybody after a very victorious election season. I'll be happy to rock red throughout the league. Come up and say hi, folks. Look forward to seeing a lot of people that I haven't seen during this calendar year. Again, folks, please party responsibly, especially everybody at the League of Municipalities this year in Atlantic City. Take care of your elderly neighbors. Take care of your kids, folks. Thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.